Petra, by my clock it says 12:30. So if you're ready to go, I just want to welcome everyone. My name is Shauna Nord. I will be the host or facilitator for this session. This session is academic counseling asked and answered with Petra Woodard from the Oklahoma State Department of Education. And we would ask that you just please keep your mics muted throughout this session. If you have questions, please feel free to go ahead and put those in chat. And we will do question and answer at the end, but we will try to stop and answer some of those questions in the chat at the appropriate time. So Petra, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Shauna. I appreciate you. Welcome again, those of you who just took your break really quickly from the session we had on graduation flexibilities. Levi and Tiffany did a great job. I just want to remind you again, they are a wealth of information as far as curriculum and instruction. So please save their contact information and reach out to them. This session is designed to expand upon that. It is interactive. And so I want you to be ready to participate and give me some feedback. Again, my name is Petra Woodard. I'm the Executive Director of Academic Counseling and Alternative Education. And I'm happy to be presenting again this year at our For Counselors Only conference. And we're glad to have you here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. If you didn't already, put your name and school in the chat. We love to know who's attended today. So talking about Let's Get Interactive. If you have Poll Everywhere already on your phone, then you can just open it and join Petra Woodard 268. I just want you to know that is generated. 268 means absolutely nothing to me, but that's the number that they gave. Or you can even use your phone to text Petra Woodard 268 to those numbers there, 22333. And then you will be able to join and answer the question. So I want to just get you set up so you can have it open when it's time. So there's no need to create an account. You simply use that information above to get started. So I want to see what our understanding is of some of the areas that we're going to talk about today. Let's see here. So academic counseling. I love this quote. I can't promise to fix all your problems, but I can promise you won't have to face them alone. And that is by your school counselor. That is our motto. That is what we do. We have to understand as counselors that we can't fix everything, and being transparent with students about that is so important. But letting them know that we're there to walk alongside them is very important for them to understand. They don't have to do high school alone or that transition alone. So I want to know from you, why did you become a counselor? It could be things like motivate students, just anything that you want. Why did you become a counselor? And let's see some of the responses that we get. Don't be shy. Do we have any?
Okay, Petra, when I texted Petra Woodard to 268, it came back not found, but we do have them coming in the chat.
Okay, go ahead and, because it popped up on mine. Oh, there we go. There we go. I'm going to move this little thing to the bottom because it's in the way. Students is obviously overwhelmed. Overwhelming reason why we become counselors. The rest of it is kind of balanced out, we have processes, help determine pathways, probably help, motivate. All of those are great reasons why we become counselors. And please continue to put those in there at the end of this presentation. I'm going to have those there and it should download. I'll make this presentation available after the session and you'll be able to see what people put in there. But I just kind of wanted to see what you thought. I thought maybe I would see stuff like, I do this for the money. Oh, said no counselor ever. Or maybe I became a school counselor so that I could build student schedules all day long. said no counselor ever. This typically is what we end up doing all day. Schedules, checks, all that kind of stuff, but that's not why we became counselors. So my job is to tell you what we have to monitor, but keep in mind why you became a counselor all the time at the forefront. It may be these are things that we have to do, but they are never replace who we are, which we're here to help students. And I've never heard a counselor ever say, well, I did this for the money. No, that was not my testimony, as my mama would say. So these are things that we do. And some of you have seen, if you've been in my presentations, you've seen the information on the left. We do things like that, requirements, we do transcript guidance, and we're talking about academic counselors here. We're talking about enrollment guidance and scheduling and all of those kinds of things, checking course codes and helping with career tech and concurrent. We do those things, but what we do mostly is we inspire students. Okay, we inspire students to dream, to determine their pathway, reevaluate interests and abilities, express themselves, aim with clarity and confidence. And that clarity comes with our discussions about them, about what do you want to do, helping them understand programs, helping them understand college admission, helping them understand pathways. So with clarity, they can make those decisions and feel confident. And we help them make their dreams realities. So I really love you guys. I love being a counselor and being able to help students transition because we want them to be successful. And what I want to know is this familiar? And I'll ask you later about it. Some of you are nodding like, okay, yeah, I remember that. Pursuit of Happiness. But what about it is familiar? I'm going to play this clip and hopefully Shauna will have some sound. Let me know if we don't. Well, then there that go.
People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period. Let's go.
How many of you, just reflect, have had that conversation sitting across the desk to another student? You could just raise your hand in the chat. It has the little where you can put an emoji or something. I see thumbs up. That is what's familiar. So not necessarily the whole movie, which is great. I might rewatch it, the whole thing this weekend. But this particular scene is so motivating, and that is what we do with students. What do you want to do? So we're not going to let another teacher demean them. We're not going to let their peers. We're not going to let their parents. If you want to do something, let's figure out your skill set, your goals. Let's figure out how to get that done. Don't let anyone tell you that you cannot reach your dreams. So that I said, oh man, I've had that conversation a gazillion times. And then my favorite part is let's pick up this stuff and let's go. We're not going to wallow in any situation. So here we down to the nuts and bolts. We are counselors. We're legislated. I'm not going to go over that. I do want to highlight that we are working on getting that ratio down. ASCA, of course, recommends 250 to 1. And right now in Oklahoma, we are 413 to 1. So last year's enrollment was 703,000 students. We've dropped below that. We're more at 690 something. But I do want to notice the trend in counselors is going up. And so and that is because some districts have really taken this seriously, and they are requiring that every school has a certain number of counselors, and that is helping us. What we also have to do along with that is make sure we have the counselor pool for them to hire from. And so if you know friends who would be great counselors, not just because they're a friend and they need a job. Remember, we don't make all that. About 42,000 is the average in Oklahoma, but encourage them to be school counselors. And I will say I get calls every week and emails about people wanting to join our profession. And so that's really exciting. And why is this important? Because with all those almost 700 students, we're still below 2,000. Our ratio is still 413 to 1. And so if we're wanting that one-on-one information to share with students, we have to have some help getting that done, or we're just going to continue to be overwhelmed, and students will be overwhelmed. And we don't want that. We don't want them saying, what the heck with this? We want them to have a goal and be able to reach it. So what are those requirements and documentation? I love this. Documentation is not about what we do, but what we are searching for. So if you have a graduation checklist, it's not about checking off the boxes. It's about why we're checking off the boxes, making sure that we have what the student needs in order to matriculate to college or in order to enter the workforce prepared. So it's not just about checking off things, but we have to document. We can't get around it. I'm just going to highlight this, remind you about the requirements. We do have 2 pathways in Oklahoma, College Prep Work Ready and the core curriculum. So students can graduate on either pathway. The College Prep, of course, is meeting the college entry requirements. So if you go on that pathway, you don't have to figure out if you're going to meet college entrance requirements. You will. If you're on the core, you have to double check that because it's not designed in totality to meet college prep requirements. Doesn't mean a student has to stay on the core. If they start off on the core, they can end up by the end meeting those requirements. So never keep a student stuck in one of the pathways. And just remember, we always have extra requirements. And I'm going through these because I've done these in our presentations. They've been in other presentations, but we always have to remember what it is that we're supposed to be tracking and where the questions come from, or from where the questions come, whichever way. Did I end it in a preposition? Okay. Personal financial literacy, we have to have that. CPR, we have to have that. ICAP is the newest graduation legislation that we have. And so be aware of those. When people talk about meeting graduation requirements, they typically look at, do I have all my courses? Yeah, do you have all your courses? And do you have these other things as well as assessments? So don't forget about this part when you're guiding students about those other requirements. And I would, if possible, they can have CPR AED anytime between grades 9 through 12. Let's try to stay away from giving it to them in 12th grade, because that's how we're running into all the issues where seniors can't graduate, or that's the thing that they're missing because we waited all the way till 12th grade to do that. The 2025 checklist is out and available, so it is updated. There have not been any approved changes to the graduation requirements since ICAP legislation. But if there are, if anything comes out of the end of this legislative session, we will revise it accordingly and make sure that you get that. But for right now, there were no requirements. I will tell you that I have gotten questions about the elective section. And so I'm working with our creative services team to add more lines to that because your districts can offer more graduation requirements than the state minimum 23. And this form was designed to make sure that they had at least the state minimum. So we want to accommodate you on that. And it's the second page of this talks about ICAP. Marissa Lightsey has done a session on ICAP. If you were able to attend Chelsea Hunt's, she would talk about work-based learning and industry engagement. We all can work with you on monitoring those requirements for ICAP, but the back of this form also has that. When I talk about transcript guidance, the questions that I get is, do we have to put these statements on our transcripts? Because our transcripts are looking like college papers right now. The answer right now is yes, because they are approved statements, except for CPR. That's why I said sample. There was no specific statement provided to document that, but you do have to document it on the transcript. Some districts just have a box and it says CPR met and they'll have the date. So if you're doing that, that's fine. And PFL has a specific statement, ICAP has a specific statement, and the CTE 3-hour program, that is also a sample that Shauna and I actually kind of worked to see, what's the wording that we can give them. What we want you to know about that is that that is not a math. It is just how they met the math requirement, that third math requirement. And so the wording, do not give them a math credit. Post that code, that course as it is, and count it for the type of credit that it is, vocational credit, whatever's in your information system, but it's not a math. But on your checklist, if the student is on the core pathway, that can meet the 3 math in high school. So they can have Algebra 1, geometry, and then a full year of a 3-hour career tech program, and that student is finished. Some exemptions. In our last session, we talked about exemptions and waivers due to COVID, which started last year. We've been a whole year of COVID, because we walked out of our conference last year and then shut the world down. So we made it just in time. But still be mindful that this year's seniors were the ones who received the assessment waivers from last year. And so they don't have to take the testing because they received their exemption last year from having to take the state test. And I do get that question, because they'll say, well, do we have to enroll the seniors this year? Well, no, they got a waiver last year as juniors because they were first-time test takers. And that went for the U.S. history, received a medical exemption because that's a state mandated test. And so that fell under, they were able to do a medical exemption from that one. So post those statements on there accordingly. So far this year, the CPR waiver has been approved for this year's seniors. So if you do have seniors that have not had CPR, you can use the same statement from last year. The student received an exemption from CPR AED. And so that would be for 2020 seniors and 2021 seniors. And I like to put it all on one slide for this year's seniors, because that kind of can get confusing, because some of the seniors that should have graduated came back. For 2021, these are the ones that you have to have, and this is the wording all in one place. And there's also a document that's specific to transcript guidance for the class of 2021 that you want to look at, and it has this information on it as well. Notice that, yes.
We have 2 questions regarding the transcript. Does ICAP need to be stated on the transcript each year, or at the end of the student's time in high school?
That's a great question. Notice that it is not on this for 2021 because ICAP doesn't start until the year 2023, that graduating class, and ICAP can't be completed until they're seniors. And so I've had a discussion with the counselor before about that. Can we put that they did it this year? Because if a student moves to another district, how do you document it without sending them the graduation checklist or something? How can they see it on the transcript? There's nothing preventing you from putting 9th, 10th, 11th grade, maybe a 9th, 10th, and 11th, and then a yes, 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 and then putting the statement after grade 12. So that's fine. But it does not have to be put on transcript every year.
Perfect. One other question. Does the students, the personal financial literacy, does it have to be put in their permanent folder showing that they've met everything, as well as the statement on the transcript?
Yes. So there is a passport to financial literacy that is supposed to follow the student and kept with their records. And also that is something that may be asked both of these by your regional accreditation officers. So you want to have it easily accessible to show them that students are meeting those requirements. But PFL, there is a specific form for that, where they're supposed to track that with the dates that the student met each of the competencies. So yes, it should be in their records. Subject codes and course labeling. I'm not going to go over this so much, a lot. I wanted you to have the links all the time and to remind you to always look at the most recent subject codes list when you're updating your coursework in your student information systems. They do have the most recent, well, for 21-22 loaded on the accreditation page. So you want to look at that, and just in the last couple of years, they have on ours, the SDE one has the courses broken down by pathway. So what is, which courses count for college prep and which ones count for only elective credit. And so you want to look at that document when you are talking to students about I had a question about ASL. RAO text me, does American Sign Language count for a world language? Okay, on that sheet, it doesn't. It says elective credit only. So look at that first, and any other questions about content, you can reach out to me or reach out to a member of the curriculum and instruction team. This presentation will be made available right after this session. So it'll be a PDF loaded right within the Whova app. And there's also, maybe the transcript guidance document is already there. So I'm not sure, but we will make sure that both of these documents are available. And ICAP, we answered the question about every year. And I always like to highlight my friends at Career Tech, make people know here are the course codes, because they also have course codes and course names that they would like you to use. And Shauna's team has done a great job of telling what type of academic credit that is. So we can better advise students about which computer course should you take over there, because is this going to be a business credit or is this going to be a technology credit? So look at that as well as the concurrent enrollment courses that, we're talking about the meeting graduation requirements. So your concurrent enrollment courses, they're college courses, but make sure that if you're doing any equivalency like dual credit, whether it's going to be an elective credit or a core credit, and make sure that you cover that with those students. And the Regents also publishes a list of approved courses, and they update that. And so if a student is ever in doubt or you're in doubt about a course, are they going to count that for college admission? Go right to the Regents, who determines what the college admission requirements are. On the transcript for concurrent enrollment courses, as a counselor, what I did was transcribe those courses from the school that the student earned them. And I also did that for Career Tech, because someone can easily look at that transcript and say, oh, they went to Canadian Valley Vo-Tech. And look, I said Vo-Tech because I went way back. I aged myself. I'm a new grandma, by the way. And so you can see that that's where they took that. Or concurrent enrollment, you can see they went to Rose State or they went to Oklahoma City Community College. So I would do that like that. So we're going to go through some updates I want you to be aware of. I think I've learned that the best way to lift oneself up is to help someone else. And that is from Booker T. Washington, which is why I love doing these sessions. It encourages me to provide information for you so that you can do your jobs better. And if you ever have any questions, please reach out because it makes me great to find answers. I love it. I love researching what happens. But just some updates, e-transcripts, Matthew Sternberg and I from Parchment did a session yesterday, and we thank you for if you attended that session. It was really good. Go back and watch it. There were some things clarified in that session. The e-transcripts are designed for these purposes. Among my favorite is reducing the amount of paperwork that we have to do. And this time of year, sending out transcripts and printing them and stuffing them and licking them or having a student aide lick them and mailing them takes up so much time. And so students and alumni and other entities will be able to ask for those transcripts pretty easily. It's no cost to K-12 schools. So visit that link to get signed up. We want as many schools as possible to sign up. It's kind of like COVID. They're talking about herd immunity. The more we get vaccinated, the better it'll be. The more schools that sign up, the better it'll be because more schools will be able to send and receive transcripts electronically. But do go back and look at that session and reach out to me if you have questions about e-transcript. Also, Sarah Kirk, she did a session. We're doing the Oklahoma Counseling Framework from 2004. We are updating it, and we have an awesome team of counselors from across the state who have worked on that, and it is exciting work. So be ready for that. Our goal date is this summer. It includes academic calendar by grade level. I mean, it's amazing. And it's so easy to use. So look out for that. And those of you on the call who may be district leadership in counseling, make sure you get that and use that as induction for your new counselors in your district. Resource them. I was not resourced. It was like, you're a counselor, here's your office and here's your key. So we're going to do better. We're going to do a better job at that. Again, a reminder about AP courses. AP courses, if you're Elizabeth Mon did a session on this as well. So if you're needing help getting your AP program started so that you can meet by 2024-25, offering 4 AP courses in your district, how can you get that done? Reach out to her and I'll put you in contact with her as well. But that's a new requirement. Some relevant legislation that may impact graduation. So we're watching this. College Prep Work Ready graduation requirements. They're considering including the block STEM course to count for lab science and math. Currently, it does on the core, but not on the college prep track. And so that's a consideration if it's taken in 10th through 12th grade. So we're watching for that. And then if you're aware of the U.S. civics, students having to take civics tests to graduate, we're watching for that as well. And why I'm sharing it with you is because it's going to be one more thing that we have to track. So just keep your eyes open for that. And there are several bills related to Oklahoma's Promise that we're watching for as well to provide students more opportunity to access the Oklahoma's Promise. So be aware of those as well. Student assessments, thank you to those of you who are also test coordinators on the call. And those timelines are published there, and we're already in the flows of that. Some of you may have already administered the seniors opportunity last week to those seniors. So we appreciate that opportunity that was made for them. We know that that was the first time some of them would have taken the exam. And it didn't cost them. So that was awesome. But make sure that you're aware of those makeup test dates. And if you're helping connect students and telling them to get to school and get it done, you know, that's the kind of stuff that we can help do and post the dates and make sure that they're aware. Always reach out to the assessments office with any questions regarding testing. Yeah, and it is a district requirement, the AP. So those schools will have to do that. Now, remember, a student that is on the alternative education pathway, once they go to alternative education school, that team gets together and decides how that student needs to graduate. And so that will be a team decision. And like they won't have to take AP. It'll be like they're typically put on the core. Doesn't mean they're not college prep, but they're struggling students. And so a lot of them are on the core. And it's not that the kid has to take it, the school has to offer it. Okay. And then SAT, just be aware that they're doing away with the subject tests. So I thought that was great that people are forward thinking about what is a test and why do we do it? Well, they're making the adjustments at the SAT. Do we have any questions before we go into the legal reference section? This is going to be the bulk of the Q and the FAQs that I get.
We do.
Mhm.
What is the latest regarding testing and early graduates?
I have a slide for that. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about early graduates.
What about small schools who offer AP courses? And if they don't make, we offer at least 2 each year, and we've had 2 to 4 students in them. We have around 315 students in the high school.
Yeah. So if you are offering the courses, if you're offering the 4 courses for them students to enroll, if they don't enroll in them and they don't make, you offer them. And then there are other considerations like maybe co-oping with the district or another site or something like that for the students who would take a different type of course that you don't offer. In that session, they kind of covered that in Elizabeth's session yesterday. So I would definitely go back. She also had College Board representative on that call. So make sure that you go back and review that. They also had the exact wording for the legislation up there. And so we have to offer 4. Okay. A well-educated mind will always have more questions than answers. And that's why we're counselors, just because we're educated. That's why we have questions, because we're supposed to. That's the great Helen Keller. I have another question for you. How many periods must a student be enrolled? So if you have your app open, I want to see what the answer is for this question. So we have D, we have B, we have 4, 3, 4, what's leading here? 6. 67% of you say 6 classes is changed. 71% up. People are changing their mind. Are they saying, wait a minute? No changing your mind. I'm gonna switch it. This is great. I'm glad that we had this question on here, because by law, you have to be enrolled in a minimum of 6 periods. Okay, so I get that question a lot, or the equivalent on a block schedule. So say you're on 4x4, then you need to be in at least 3 of those courses each day. So you'll get your 6. And I get that question, and there's the statute there that talks about that. Now, those hours can be made up of vocational courses, concurrent, speech classes, their regular classes, but they are supposed to be enrolled in 6 periods. So let's say that we have Harvey. Harvey is a senior that only needs English 4 and 1 unit of social studies to graduate. He works after school and could use the time spent at school to go to work early. Can he just come to school for the classes he needs? This is a question that I get often, and this is the guidance that we give them for possible solutions to that, because I know you have that question. You got to enroll them in 6 periods. That's per the legislation I just showed you. They have to take the English 4 and the social studies, because those are the 2 you already know they need for graduation. The other 4 periods, what do you do about those? Again, concurrent. And you can include a travel period with concurrent. Career tech, internship, I would avoid dumping them in just a random elective, because that's causing stress on the teacher and the student. But with the class of 2022, that should be the last time that we end up with this issue, because with ICAP, you should already know you're going to plan all 4 years. So you should know that if you're getting a middle schooler that's coming in with 3 credits already or 4 credits, what their plan is for their senior year. So, but you have to figure out how to get them in 6 hours. Here's another question. A student can graduate early. This is a statement, as long as they've completed all coursework. True or false? So we have true. False. This one's close. Let's see. Are we talking about graduating early or an early graduate? So you have to have your district policy in place to determine whether or not you allow students to graduate early, which means like Hart, if someone has finished everything, what is your plan for that student? Because right now you're still going to be bound by the 6 hours, okay, if they stay on your campus. They have to meet all credit requirements, yes. But they also have to meet all their college and career readiness assessments and any additional requirements for graduation. So in question, that was the assessments question. What do we do about students who graduate early without taking the assessment? The assessment is still part of graduation, unless it was like waived for this year's class. There is no escape route right now for testing. And so unless further guidance comes out about that, students are still bound to take their junior level assessments, which includes the science and the US history as well. People tend to only think the ACT or SAT, but we have 2 other assessments in Oklahoma that students have to take, and it's the whole suite. The students still have to be enrolled as a graduate. I mean, enrolled in the school to be declared. You can't graduate somebody that's not enrolled in your school. And so I wouldn't exit the student until they've met all of their requirements. Now, we have had discussion about this issue, and what is being proposed, which I propose, is districts come up with maybe an early graduate plan. And you know that that student is intended to graduate early, and maybe you can put them in an assessment window to where they're going to graduate. Because right now, we're not like you remember the EOI started out in spring? You had people not graduating. Well, what you gonna do? Then we had to open up this window, and then we had to open up this window, and then we ended up testing all year. And if you'll go back to that slide I showed you about counselors, you watch that decline. That's when all that was going on. We got away up with it, and now it's going back up this way. I don't know if you can see me. I can just see Shauna. So how we handle this issue is going to handle our job responsibilities. So, but right now, they still have to take the assessment. Early graduation. So here's Monica. She's a junior. She's going to complete all her required coursework. At the end of the semester, her senior year, she's going to go to the military. I just had this question a couple weeks ago, and leave for basic training over Christmas break. Now, her brother, who's super smart, took all those courses in middle school. He's going to be done the middle of his junior year, right before junior testing, right? What do? You have to check your policy. First of all, does your district even allow for early graduation? Hold that meeting with students, parents, counselor, get everybody together and look at, is everything going to be met? Confirm that all those requirements will be met. The assessments for Melvin is going to be a question. Exit the student as a graduate if they meet everything when they graduate. So if they finish in the fall, you don't post their graduation date in May. That's not when they graduated. They completed their requirements in December, thus early. And then you would give her, the transcript to her recruiter or whatever to confirm. Diplomas won't be ordered till spring. And you can allow the students to come back and walk at the district's discretion. If you say, yeah, you can come back. But so Monica is pretty, we can handle hers if she's met everything. Brother Melvin, we're still working out the assessments piece for him. Here's another question. Students from other states must take Oklahoma history to graduate. Not a question, it's a statement. 50-50. So we're saying that's false. They don't have to take Oklahoma history to graduate. You are correct to a certain degree. Students who transfer into Oklahoma after their junior year of high school, okay, they cannot be denied due to differing requirements the opportunity to be awarded their diploma. So if you get a senior that comes in like today and they haven't had Oklahoma history, you can't tell them they can't graduate because they don't have Oklahoma history. If they were, so that is in statute, and I wanted you to have the reference in this PowerPoint so that you can go back and look at it. Now, point number 2, district boards can make exceptions on an individual basis to the high school graduation requirements. So that's where Oklahoma history falls into this. There is another piece of that legislation that specifically talks about Oklahoma history, but it is relevant for students who are in military families, where it exempts them from having to take it. And it's not just applicable to seniors, it's in any of those grades. So you can exempt those students from taking it if they're in children of military families. So here's Julia. She's a senior who moved in from Texas. I mean, because why not move from Texas to Oklahoma? She was on track to graduate, and you were able to give her a full schedule with the same courses she took in Texas. So we know that doesn't happen often, but that's a good one for her. She took the ACT, but doesn't have U.S. history or additional science. What about Oklahoma history class? So what do? You confirm, of course, that she was on track to graduate from Texas. And if there's no room in her schedule, you know, if there is room, enroll her in Oklahoma history. If not, use her current pathway and finish Julia out as the graduate that she was on track to be. And remember, the district can waive the Oklahoma history requirement on an individual basis. And the student was not in Oklahoma, so she's not bound by our assessments. If she was not here to take our junior assessments, she didn't live in Oklahoma. But as long as she's met her assessment requirements in Texas, then she's fine. If possible, allow the student to take personal financial literacy and do the CPR, just because those are good to have, but it's not required for that student. But don't combine state assessments. Say, well, you met half of Texas's and you met half of ours. So there you go, you're gonna be a graduate. Follow the student on the pathway that's gonna get them completed, okay? I do get questions about persons over 21. They can attend to complete 12th grade. So there are some extenuating circumstances that may have happened to where they wanna come back. If they've not completed their diploma or GED, they can be provided the opportunity to complete their regular high school diploma. Now, if a student, I learned this from accreditation and legal, if a student is 16 and they leave and get their GED, they're able to come back and just get their high school diploma. So that's that. Well, my daughter says I was today old when I learned that. So that is an interesting point. Districts can deny persons over 21 from attending on-site classes. So however your district says, well, we're going to enroll you in this night program. Those movies are not just movies for a reason. I mean, adults go back to school to finish their diplomas. But again, have your policy in place, and you can actually, per legislation, charge them based on your average pupil expenditure, like an enrollment fee for them to take those courses. So here's Larry, he's 24. You know, he dropped out at 16 to get his GED, and he's back. Hey, I decided I really want my diploma because I want this job that requires me to have a diploma. And I really just liked school, but I just didn't like the people that were in school at that time. So he's back with the younger kids. Confirm, remember, that he's not completed the GED already. Check his residency, because he's got to reside in the district. And the district policy will determine how he takes those classes. Like I said before, is it going to be night school? Is it going to be an online curriculum? Does he have to go to adult ed? And then you would enroll him under specific codes if he didn't attend anywhere else. So you want to, when you put him in, make sure he doesn't pop up that he actually left you and went to another school. And then the basis of admission, that's what's important, and people tend to overlook that, will be other. And after he's done, he would have graduated in 6 or more years. And so always check with the data department or accountability department when you're talking about what codes and stuff do I need to use. They will tell you. But make sure that you're not just saying, okay, welcome back, and you're in the 12th grade. And for your counselors, there is a graduation part-time report that is completed quarterly, and actually it just opened. So work with your administrator or registrar for those students who have returned, say they didn't graduate last year and they're back as a 5th-year student. These are the students that don't have to be there the whole 6 periods. okay? But they can only be in the courses that they need to graduate, which means they don't need football to graduate. So, or baseball, or we don't want to use the rules like that. So have them come back, take the courses they need to graduate on a part-time basis, and you report those because the district can get paid for those students. Quickly with ICAP, we have a question.
We do, and I don't know if you want to, we have about 5 minutes left, so I don't know if you want to address the questions or if you want to kind of finish up your thing and then try to do a little bit of Q&A. So
yeah, I'm going to finish up because I really don't have, these are just reviews because they were in other presentations from my team, but always want to have you know what the ICAP requirements are, because that's where we are right now, is getting students prepared for life beyond, and keep that in mind when you are working with them. The other thing is that ICAP doesn't stand for individual counselor additional problems. That's not what ICAP is. It's not just about the counselor, but we do have roles with our whole school team. So never feel like that you're the one that just has to get that done. I'm happy to work with you individually on how you can get your program started based on what your school needs are. Just contact me. Be mindful of the tools. And ICAP was really this solution. This one is that when students come in and they haven't been on an ICAP, because I get that question. What if they missed 9th grade? Well, if they weren't in our state, they weren't under ICAP. And did they do something else? And just code that, just mark that. What you want to be concerned about is a 2023 graduate that has done nothing and you can't verify. And we need to know that, because if they're still in Oklahoma and they've not been offered ICAP opportunities, we need to follow up with the district that they came from, okay? And then the resources are there as well. So that's it. What are the questions?
yes, so I'll go back to, so athletic, an athletic weight course our athletic weight course is counting for PE, and they have students that are in 2 hours of football a day. They're on a 7-hour schedule.
Yes, in that legislation, it says that they can count. And so, and make sure that they're using, because one of them can be like PE and the other one is competitive athletics. I've seen schools do that. So football.
So second question, there's kind of two questions. What is the minimum, I'm assuming, period per day for alt ed? And they're asking if that's 4 hours for alternative education.
No, alt ed has its different rules. And so there are full day programs for alt ed. And so if they are designated as a full day program, the student should be there full day. And then they also have like where they can do 4 hours and 12 minutes. Some of them are on those type of programs. So alt ed is a different kind of beast, but the program designates what their hours of operation are.
Perfect. Next question. So early graduates must still take assessments during the assessment window. There's no option for early testing?
At this time, we do not have an early testing window. Some of the the thought processes are maybe like before we used alternate assessments, but we use those post-test for students to have at least taken the test, and then we can use an alternate assessment for the score. But at this time, through the Office of Assessments, which is where that decision will be made, there's no option.
How do you document that your district is waiving the Oklahoma history requirement for a student?
So you need to know within your system and in your graduation checking, so that you know that. Make sure that you keep that on there, because when you do submit those, I would just submit those waivers to my office, because the legislation does say that they need to be submitted. And submit those to me, and then I can get them to the accreditation office.
Okay, next question. Thinking back to Harvey on the 6-hour day, is there a class for on-the-job training besides the Career Tech OJT course?
Not necessarily. That we don't have a code for on-the-job training, but we do have internship codes. So 2290, 2291, I believe what they are. Perhaps that better fits under internship. So I would reach out. I would probably use that.
Okay, and then a couple more. Texas requires their graduates to pass the assessments, and Oklahoma does not. So that a student can graduate from a high school in Oklahoma without. So can a student graduate from an Oklahoma high school without passing the assessments in Texas?
And that would be using an alternate test. Do they have alternate tests? Because I know a couple of years ago they did away with the tax, and then they have another assessment that they're using in Texas. So always communicating with that previous school district about, would you have graduated this student? Was this student on track to graduate? And have them send you something. Yes, they were, and this is what happens. Because you can't just go off of the score, because you could have special needs students or students that are on special situations. So following up with that district about alternate tests.
Perfect. And this may have been addressed a little bit earlier, but what do we do with students who transfer from other states who do not offer ICAPs or an ICAP program?
Right. If they're out of state and they haven't been in Oklahoma, they're not bound by the ICAP. So you would just put on their checklist that we're keeping, I would just put Michigan. I mean, they were in Michigan. Just so at a glance, that anybody seeing that would see it. So that's, yeah.
Okay. Last question I'm seeing is, can a student get paid while they're interning?
Yes. And Chelsea Hunt has great guidance out there about internships and what kind of internships the students can access. And that was one of the questions we asked early on. Can students be paid? So internships can be paid or not paid.
All right, that's all the questions that I see. Petra, thank you so much for presenting and giving us your time. And for those of you that joined us, we just truly appreciate you being here. And again, giving up your time and to take in some more information about academics. And you have about 8 minutes to get to the last session of the day before closing.
Thank you, Shauna. Thank you, everyone. Again, there's my contact information, my email. If you have any questions, please reach out to me and we'll find an answer.
And again, you can find this slideshow under handouts in the agenda on Whova.